dramatic. I just am trying to get these gnats out of the way.
Yeah. All right. I teased this in the last segment. Our friend John Gallagher has been on the show a few times, the basketball coach at Hartford, and they're going from Division I to Division III, a decision that can't have been popular with anybody. Well, if you want to know how the students feel about it, this was their commencement this weekend. Yeah, that is University of Hartford president Gregory Woodward. He left the commencement ceremony ahead of scheduled closing remarks Saturday after students jeered him over the school's decision to transition from Division I to Division III athletics. And, you know, I think there was probably a time in the past where people could be shielded from these decisions enough to where this kind of thing you're not gonna get booed at, you know, your commencement address, but we're long past that time now, Craig.
What do you mean?
Like, you know, he could have probably skated by without people doing anything about or saying anything about it. Like his decision, he wouldn't have gotten booed at commencement.
I mean, if he never went out in public, yeah. I mean, but you know, as soon as you go out in public,
I'm not advocating for him not being booed. I think the decision is terrible.
Well, I kind of am in the middle on it because I don't know their financial situation. Yeah. You know, I feel like we're so quick to just point at any decision and go, oh, that's a bad decision. But like, if Hartford's bleeding money and, you know, the way to save other programs or the way to save teachers' jobs or the way to save scholarships or the way to save just anything is by, you know, bumping your programs down a level, you know, like that guy, he's not popular, but he probably made the right decision for the school in the long run. Like, I'm sorry John Gallagher's popular. He's a really nice guy. We've enjoyed talking to him, but, you know, popularity only takes you so far. And so I feel like the school had to have taken a look at the books and said, like, we just don't have a choice. And if we don't do this now, then we're going to have to do it eventually. And so, I mean, I get it. I get why it's unpopular, especially coming off the year that they just had. But at the same time, like, that's the reality of the situation, is that a lot of these schools can't afford these sports to begin with, much less after a pandemic. And, you know, on this topic, I just saw a tweet from one of the SEC beat writers, and it was discussing who's the former LSU guy that now covers the SEC on a full-time basis.
Ross Dellinger.
Yeah, Dellinger's where I saw it. That's who I was trying to think of. But Ross Dellinger just put out a few minutes ago that the SEC has now disbursed an additional $23 million to each SEC school. It's a total of $322 million that the SEC is now dispersing, a one-time supplemental distribution to help offset COVID-19 impacts, according to Commissioner Greg Sankey. The league's also accessing future earnings from a deal with ESPN. It says the SEC schools lost anywhere. Now think about this. You're talking about Hartford basketball, which no one before like 2 months ago even knew they had a basketball program. Most people did not even know that. Certainly could not have named John Gallagher. I couldn't have until we talked to him because they were playing Baylor. So if the SEC is losing per school anywhere from $20 to $70 million, then they're hurting that bad. You can imagine what Hartford's feeling like right now and what some of these smaller schools are feeling like. And they can't get a $32 or a $23 million additional disbursement from their conference. That's not coming in anytime soon. They couldn't put together $23 million to divide between the schools, much less for each of them. So, I mean, if the SEC's hurting like that with all the money they got, I mean, we knew there was going to be some financial fallout from this past year. Stanford just reversed course on eliminating 11 sports. So they were bound for that. Others have eliminated other sports. So I get it. I get why it's unpopular, but I just think it's the reality of finances. And, you know, if something else comes out about Hartford that says, no, they could have made it work, they could have stayed at D1 and they could have, you know, just been there, then yeah, boo the hell out of that man and be like, why in the world would you do that? But I would have to believe, just based on what I know, that this was a move they kind of had to make.
Here's why. I mean, I almost agree with everything you said. The problem is that when you get back to solvent, if you can,
right?
Okay, how does that leave your university? Like, are you going to go back and move back to Division I, or did going to Division III and saving the scholarship route okay, I get that saves you money, but now, like, why couldn't you just go to Division II for a little while, reduce your number of scholarships? See how you did it. It feels to me like they didn't even come up with a plan to try to make it work. It was just like because I think this happens a lot in academia. If we just eliminated this one thing right here, we'd save this many millions of dollars. If this is out, then we're good. We're going to take this out, we're good. But the long-term ramifications of that are you're killing an athletic department, and I don't know how you build one back up again. Now, I get that people are canceling sports, and part of that is there are university presidents and athletic directors that wanted to do that well before COVID was there. They just didn't have the backbone or cojones or whatever you want to call it to walk out and say, like, listen, we have to do this, and I can't give you a reason why other than we've mismanaged our money, and it's going. And now COVID happens, and they have a clean break. There are, there's two ways to look at, and I wrote about this on the site in the premium section a couple months ago, but there's two ways to look at all these schools getting rid of sports and getting rid of firing people and coaches getting, picked up options and raises and all that. Is that one, some schools were running redundancies in their department where they had hundreds of people that were doing the job of 20s of people. They just had 150 people when they needed 25. So they got rid of those positions, some of which had been kind of already unfilled anyway. But other places were just badly managed and are trying to get people to feel bad for them because they don't know what they're doing. So I don't know where Hartford falls in that. I kind of feel like their fans feel like they're badly managed, and it falls to them to fix it, and they just can't.
Well, I mean, I'm reading about Hartford, and here's the deal. Their enrollment has dropped. It's declined severely over the last 5 years. So as a result, tuition earnings have gone down dramatically. Enrollment issues seem to be the big plague. Even before the pandemic hit, they were struggling to get new students in. Decline in tuition revenue, strained the campus, forced cuts. It said that they commissioned the report, and the report told them, or the recommendation was, that they could save money by moving to Division III. And so, there's been marches on campus and all that. There's been petitions signed. And some people do say about the Division III move, it's like some people think they should just not even be worried about sports and just worried about academics. Like, we forget, too, in universities, like, we focus so much on the sports, but that's not why they're there in the first place. Yeah. And there are a lot of academics who aren't sports fans. And so they're like, do away with it. It's losing money. It's costing, get rid of it. And then that might be the majority of people up there in Hartford, for all I know. But, it's not like they've had massive success in Division I. It's not like Bama going down a level or anything. So I'm sure they probably could have found a way out of this if they really wanted to. Kind of like Mack Rhoades found a way to not cut jobs and do all that. Like, they found a way to make it work. I'm sure Hartford could have found a way to make it work. But, at the same time, with the way the last year has been, businesses shutting down, businesses, stopping and then starting back up again. And, it's no surprise universities have been affected as well. And Hartford's gotten more pub this year for that basketball run and now this than they've had in my entire life, because I can't say one other thing I've ever heard about with the University of Hartford. Yeah. So for what's brought them attention is now bringing them the wrong kind, or brought them good attention is now bringing them the wrong kind of attention. But, I guess we'll see in the wash how this plays out, ultimately on whether or not they made the right call and whether or not it was a call they needed to make. But I do feel, ultimately for John Gallagher and his players, that you made a run to March Madness, you lost to the eventual national champions, and now you're like, hey, how do we take this momentum? Oh, we take it down a couple levels to far lesser competition and, less appealing matchups and all that. And that's not going to be fun, right. So good luck to them.
Yeah, then that's my question. Listen, if you've got to cut stuff, but if your enrollment's going down, taking away premier activities is not going to help that. So
but it is if the sports are losing money. Yeah. Like, that's the thing is, like, we think sports makes money, but it does for Division I schools who have really good football teams or really good men's basketball teams. And that's it.
Like you were saying earlier, how many of us had heard of Hartford before this? No. It probably helped their advertising. Helped get people to know the college was an option that could help enrollment. So there's multiple ways to come at it.
That's what I'm saying. But like, to me, I think that like if they have to do this, the writing's on the wall that the school may not be around that long. Like if people aren't coming when you have everything at your disposal, when you have Division I sports, they're not going to come when there's not. They're not going to come like unless you just completely repurpose what you're doing. And maybe that's what they're trying to do, but to me, it sounds like that they're in a lot of trouble. I mean, outside of just that.
To Jack's point, you would think that they would take the momentum and go fundraise and have a bunch of people, sending checks to congratulate them on this great March Madness run, and would be smart enough to think, oh well, Hartford actually matters for like 5 seconds. Maybe we should hold on to this basketball coach for as long as we can. Maybe we should make some further waves, but instead. Instead, they are, going a different route. So, again, I have no dog in the fight. I wish the best for John Gallagher, but I know finances matter, and I know agendas matter too, and I'm sure there's some agendas in here as well from the academic side and from the athletic side, but, it's just unfortunate for them.
Yeah, it is. And look, college athletics, as much as we love it, is an absolute mess right now from top to bottom. I mean, there's some money making. This all goes back to this was the ideal of college athletics was it was supposed to be scholarships for people so they go to school. Then at some point they started making money when they didn't think that they were going to. And so then they had a nice little racket for a while. And then people started asking, well, hey, why can't we get some of that money? Which is what happens when you start making all kind of money. The news reports like, oh, here's the revenue for the athletic department this year. At Ohio State, it's, they made $300 million or whatever. I don't know if they make that, but I mean, they make all this money. Well, where's that money? Why do they cry foul or poor at other parts of the university? And so that's why I think people get confused. And, part of the reason the NCAA is a mess because, they don't have any grasp on reality. And so maybe because we don't really either. And Craig, you're right. I mean, look, they had to do what they had to do, but I just wonder down the line, like, what does that mean if you get solvent again?
I get what you're saying, but they need to get to that point. To have an opinion.
How do you promote your university without some of those things?
I don't know.
How do you do it?
That's for them to figure out. That's their call. So I have no idea how Hartford works. I have no idea about their fan base. I can't even tell you their mascot name right now.
The Hawks.
Okay, see, and I'll forget that in 5 seconds. So, what they do doesn't matter to me. Like I said, I feel for those guys. I feel for Coach Gallagher, but they made a choice. Good luck to them. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'm sure we'll hear about it. And if there's something nefarious going on, I'm sure we'll hear about that too. But, it is what it is.
254-339-1122. Your thoughts on that. We'll take a break here. When we come back, Rob Bolton, PGAtour.com. We do our draft for the PGA tournament. He gives us the lowdown on it. And you get to see Armstrong Sims wearing glasses. That's all coming up next. This is